Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, or welcome if you are new to my channel. So, today we're going to take a look at another 1981 horror movie that we're going to review. This is a movie that I streamed on YouTube. Never seen it before, barely heard of it before this series. And that movie's entitled Scared to Death from 1981. Well, actually, there's some question about what year this movie actually came out, 1980 or 81. The release date, I think, was December of 1980. It was shot in 79, but on Wikipedia it shows it as a 1981 horror film, so that's what I'm going with. Because I already did 1980 and I didn't watch or include this movie, so I am going to call it a 1981 horror movie, even though I've seen it both 1980 and 81 in different places. But anyway, for our purposes here, it's 1981. So, Scared to Death, also known as the Aberdeen Experiment, and Scared to Death Sinjanor, is a 1981 American science fiction horror film directed by William Malone and starring John Stinson. A monster stalks Los Angeles as a bioengineered creature called a Syngenor, which stands for Synthesized Genetic Orgasm, and takes refuge in the city's sewer system, going into the streets at night in search of human spinal fluid. The only person who stands in the way of the creature's unstoppable killing spree is Ted Laundergan, a former detective turned private investigator. When he is offered a job to look at the case by his former partner, several people on the police force doubt he can help solve it and is regarded by many as a hotshot with a loose temper. As time goes by and the body count begins to mount, Laundergan is eventually brought in on the case. Both the police and the public become astonished by the fact that whoever is committing the murders possesses strength far beyond that of a human, such as being able to rip the doors off of cars. When his newfound love interest Jennifer is nearly killed by the creature, he experiences a change of heart. After Jennifer is hospitalized after being attacked by the creature, a young woman named Sherry comes forward with information that could help solve the case. So yeah, that's the setup and the premise, the beginning of Scared to Death from 1981. As far as the cast goes, we have John Stinson as Ted Lonergan, Diana Davidson as Jennifer Stanton, David Moses as Detective Lou Capel, uh, Tony Janata as Sherry Carpenter, and Walker Edmonston as Police Chief Dennis Warren. So that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for Scared to Death from 1981. This movie surprised me. I rather enjoy it. It's a low budget. The budget was only $74,000 on this movie, which even in 1979, 1980, that was pretty low. That was a pretty low budget. Um, but I thought, considering that low budget, it worked for me. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. So let's get into it, starting with the things that I liked about the movie. I think overall, it's a pretty effective low budget creature slasher, I would call it, with a mix of both sci-fi creature and investigative aspects of the movie, as well as slasher aspects. And I think it all comes together pretty well for me. Not perfect. It's not a perfect, amazing movie or anything, but it's, again, I give it the benefit of the doubt because of the low budget. But yeah, it comes together, and I like those different aspects kind of being thrown in the same bowl of soup and mixed together. The main character of Ted Lonergan had so much depth and so many interesting layers to him, which you don't normally get in a lot of horror movies, a character like that. But the character, I think, was written interestingly and performed very well by John Stinson, where we as viewers are both invested in his survival and well-being, but are also curious about where he came from, and his somewhat quirky personality makes him kind of an on-screen presence and a fun character, especially the first half of the movie. But yeah, I don't know. That character was just, I was feeling the vibes he was giving off. I enjoyed him. I thought he was a good, well-written and well-acted character. So Ted Lonergan is definitely one of the best parts of this movie for me. Um, the look of the creature, while not being anything overly unique or different than those seen in prior movies or movies since, having very much the Geiger-esque aspect to him, kind of like Alien. I thought it was very effective. I mean, it's clear they spent a good portion of their budget on the look of the creature, which was smart, I think, considering that's obviously the crux of the horror of this movie is this creature, as well as the investigative aspects as well. But yeah, I thought the creature had a great look. Thought it looked creepy and effective, especially as it was stalking and approaching. Not, and it's kind of like the movie that I'll get into here in a little bit. The look of the creature, 1980s movie, you think, oh, it's going to be cheesy and, kind of just silly looking. It's really not. I mean, they took this movie seriously and they took this creature seriously. And it's not overly cheesy and it's certainly not poorly crafted. They did a good job with the money they put into the design of the creature. I was really impressed with it. I thought it was very good and effective for this movie. I think the slasher kills by the creature are pretty well set up in terms of the buildup of tension and the on-screen attacks with some of the blood and gore. Though they're not overly bloody or gory. It's not that kind of movie, but more creepy. It's effective though. I thought there's some really good setup here with the tension and the buildup of suspense, as opposed to just somebody getting slashed right away by the creature. These scenes kind of play out and unfold a little bit, and I really enjoy that. Sometimes slasher movies, I think, especially back then, are just about just getting to the old hack and slash. So this had a little bit of unfolding narrative to it, I would say. So I definitely enjoyed that aspect of the slasher part. I didn't even mind the love story that the first act of this movie kind of focuses on, because I thought it was kind of well done, and I like these characters that bump into each other literally. Because as Tad, that character, the main character, is backing out with his car, he bumps into Jennifer, who's in a different car as well. But I like those two characters of Ted and Jennifer. I thought they had good chemistry on screen. I liked the way that they met. It felt organic, and the biggest thing is it doesn't overshadow or take away from any of the creature slasher horror aspects of the movie. In fact, I would dare say it adds to it, because it gives us some central characters that we care about and kind of invested some time and their chemistry with. I mean, I'm not going to say it was it's not like amazing character development or anything, but for a horror movie, and particularly kind of a slasher movie in areas, I thought that was very well done there, and I think it enhances the overall creature feature or slasher as a result. So, and then finally, as I said before, this isn't your typical campy and cheesy 80s slasher or creature feature. And I would say it's more of a dark, serious tone, investigative kind of movie that I think is pulled off pretty well considering the low budget once again. And I was invested in the movie throughout, and I was never really bored, to be honest with you. So yeah, a lot of good things about Scared to Death from 1981. 1981 for us. I don't know what it actually is. As far as cons go, there are some issues with the movie. We have a character named Sherry, who's basically our exposition character, who comes in at the beginning of the third act, and kind of does the whole explaining what's happening and who's responsible and how this creature came to be. It's kind of a typical exposition dump that we get from characters. And to be honest, besides that, Sherry, this character, well, she was very attractive, was kind of annoying in the third act, in my opinion, and kind of held Ted back a little bit. Even though she does kind of save the day ultimately by the controls that she operates to do the creature in. I just found the character very stereotypical of that time. Screaming and needing help and holding on to Ted. And I'm not somebody that gets too annoyed by that stuff. I'm not somebody that's saying, oh, she's got to be a strong woman and push the guy away when he tries to help her. Nothing like that. It's just that I don't know, for somebody that's supposed to know so much about this, she kind of seemed really helpless, and she was just kind of annoying, and I thought she really slowed Ted up, and I don't know, that third act part with her and him didn't really work as well for me, but it didn't take away either from the whole movie. Some of the acting in the movie isn't overly great. Speaking of Sherry, played by Tony Janada, I think it is. She wasn't anything overly great. More of the side characters though, and the young people being killed. Like there's a young woman who's 22, I think they say, who gets killed, that she's dropped off. It looks like a night of going out and drinking. There's like 4 teenage roller skaters in a parking ramp. That's where the acting was really. That's where it seemed like they didn't get any. They didn't use any of the budget on actors. They promised them lunch or something at Denny's that day. That's kind of but again, it's more the side characters, not our main characters that we're following throughout the movie. Let's see. The pacing is a bit off, especially in the third act where Ted and Sherry are going into the sewers to discover the creature's lair. And then and they have to try to get back up to the lab through the sewers. It kind of moves slower than I would have liked. I mean, it's got that a little bit of that chase and hide kind of thing. And I don't know, I thought they could have shaved a few minutes off of that and not made it drawn out quite so much. But it's really just in the third act. I didn't think the first 2 acts, I didn't think the pacing was too bad. But the third act, it was a little bit more noticeable with that aspect. I'll have to say it was kind of hard to see certain scenes through the movie. Now, I don't know. I did watch this on YouTube, so I know there's a Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray out there that was released, 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm hoping maybe some of that will get cleaned up, as I am looking into getting that, because I did enjoy the movie enough to possibly purchase it at some point. So I watched the YouTube version, so I really don't know if I want to say too much about the quality of the filming or how it looked. But the YouTube version, there were some dark scenes and some cinematography that wasn't overly amazing. Again, maybe that gets fixed with the Blu-ray, the Vinegar Syndrome release. And then finally, my final con is the very end of the movie, after the creature's been destroyed, inevitably. There's a dream sequence having to do with the character of Jennifer, who's kind of waking up from a coma in the hospital. She wakes up, she stands up and is looking for Ted, and all of a sudden the creature jumps out at her. Spoiler alert, I guess I should have said, but and then she wakes up for real. That kind of stuff just makes me mad, and I really didn't understand the point of it in this film. It felt out of place for the end of this movie. I think they probably should have just cut to the ending credits. If they wanted to, the very last shot is them going down into the sewers again, and then it cuts off on YouTube. I don't know if it shows anything more in the release on Vinegar Syndrome, but I just don't understand why they went back to Jennifer's character and showed that dream sequence. It was totally not needed, especially at that point of the movie when we're kind of catching our breath from the final climax and everything. That was unnecessary. I don't know why they had that, but that's what I got, guys. Overall, this was a surprise for me. And again, it's nothing amazing. I'm not saying rush out and spend $25 on this movie or anything. I'm going to try to get it for 10 or 12 if I can, if that. But I enjoyed it. I think it's a nice little creature feature slasher creature feature movie. As I said, I like the main characters. I like the chemistry of the love interests there in the first part of the movie. I liked how it took a while to finally get our main character of Ted back into the investigative aspect. We don't really know why he's shying away from wanting to get involved. Something must have happened, but it's a well done movie, especially given the low budget. And I think it's pretty well directed by William Malone. And I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10 for what it is. Considering the low budget, considering it's kind of a B creature feature, early 80s horror movie, but don't let you fool that. It's not cheesy. It's got more of a serious tone, and there's a lot of things going for it. So 8 out of 10 for Scared to Death from 1980, 81 in my case. Go ahead and comment down below if you guys have seen this movie, what you think of it. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this 1980s horror series, 1981 specifically, and so you don't miss any of my other great horror content coming up the rest of this winter and into spring. So with that being said, hope everybody's doing well, but as always, you know it, stay scared. Bye.